With over 40 countries across the globe now listening to Dharma Drops Podcast, the community is growing. And so to meet those needs, I have started the Facebook group, the Dharma Drops Community Page. Here you can hang out, share ideas, get updates, information, and even chat with some of the Dharma Drops guests because they're members of the page too. To find the Dharma Drops community page, head over to Facebook, search for Dharma Drops, DHARMA, Dharma Drops community page, and there you can request to join, and then we'll hang out and have a damn good time. Hey guys, want to hear more exclusive episodes of Dharma Drops Podcast? Well, there's good news. By registering for my new course, Feeding the Wildlife, you will have access to exclusive episodes with some of your past favorite Dharma Drops guests, including Rye from the New School Kitchen, Danny from Spiritual Junkies, yoga teacher Logan Wagonseller, Tara from Be Uncluttered Podcast, and Gabby of Make Your Perfect. In addition to these exclusive podcast episodes, you will also receive 14 days of tips, tricks, methods, and information about how to exist in the chaos of life and thrive in it. Oh, and there's yoga classes and meditations and all kinds of cool stuff. It's only $21 and you get a ton of stuff and you get to hear more I can't even say the name of my own podcast, you guys. Dharma Drops. You can get more episodes of Dharma Drops Podcast that you can only listen to by registering for the course. So head over to RebeccaWarfield.com and you can register right there. And you get to keep all of the content for life. So for $21, not a bad deal. Last but not least, before you get into this episode of Dharma Drops Podcast, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to Dharma Drops on whatever app you're listening to it on. Okay, here we go. On to the episode. This is Dharma Drops with your host, Rebecca Warfield. This podcast is a little bit about yoga, a little bit about life, and a little bit about whatever. And just as a warning, this podcast is unscripted, so that means I might regret a few things that I say. But hey, maybe I'll say some pretty awesome stuff too. Remember, these are musings, not truths. Buckle up, giddy up, because here we go. What? I can't believe you are here, Natalie of Natalie Griffie Wellness, because you were my English student.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I know, a long time ago. So welcome to Dharma Drops Podcast. This is your host, Rebecca Warfield, and I'm here with my former English student and fellow dancer because we danced together too. Mm-hmm.
That's right.
And we are here to chit chat today. But first, I feel like I have to apologize because as your former English teacher, I made a big old typo in my newsletter last month with your article that you put on my blog.
Oh, well, I'm a bad student because I didn't notice.
Even better.
What are you talking about?
I mean, I make a ton of typos and everyone thinks that English teachers are like, they never make mistakes. And in fact, I make probably more writing mistakes than anyone else in the entire world. But I was like, really? Rebecca, of all the people's work that you're going to make a huge typo in, it's going to be Natalie's, like the very person that you probably lectured for 16 weeks about proofreading your work. Sorry.
No, totally okay. I didn't notice. I was just trying to keep up with all your guidelines.
Oh my God, I do have like a pretty
magazine. I showed my husband. I was like, you can tell she was my English professor.
So for those of you listening, and if you've never written for me before, you'd probably be, I don't know, excited or horrified to know that I have a really long guideline sheet.
It's not bad. It's all common sense.
It is. Well, I guess it's common sense. But the reality is when other people are writing content for your site, you just never know what you're going to get, you know? And I've had people pitch ideas and they send me an email and I'm like, holy shit, I can't even read through the email, you know? So it's sort of a way of filtering stuff out. And I'm sorry if anyone listening, if this has been you, but this is just the truth. Some people have received the guidelines are like, no, I'm okay.
Oh my God.
I think I'll pass, and I get it, you know, but it just, I'm an English teacher. I can't help it.
Well, I was prepared.
Well, I mean, you may or may not have had an amazing, what class did I have you for? Comp or literature? I can't remember.
Comp?
Yeah, who knows? How long ago was that? You're like married and living in a different state now. I mean, this is like 100 years ago.
That was like 7 years ago.
Crap. Oh man, I was just a baby teacher. Sorry.
Yeah.
I should apologize for all the things I said in that class too. you know.
I just remember I used to always tell you I liked your outfit. Hey, I like your outfit today, Miss Warfield.
You know, people at UNCW, the students will still compliment my outfits. And that's pretty much the best part of my life, is that when young people still compliment my clothes, I'm like, yes. The same thing happens. So now I teach yoga at UNCW too. And a lot of my students have mentioned that they like my playlist. Well, when I played music in classes, I don't play music anymore. But when I played music in classes, these like 18-year-olds would say, I really like your music. I'm like, yes, I'm so cool.
Yes.
So Natalie, outside of being a former English student, we also dance together, which is exciting.
Yeah.
But you've like since moved on with life and you're living in Wisconsin. And can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing with your business, Natalie Griffie Wellness?
Yeah. So, I worked in a lot of different jobs in health and wellness in North Carolina. But then when I got engaged and my husband got a job at a school here in Wisconsin, came here and decided this is my opportunity to finally do what I have been doing, but on my own. So with Natalie Griffie Wellness, I coach people to basically decide what wellness means to them. Mm-hmm. And I empower them to take the steps on their wellness journey to, start feeling better. We do a lot of mindset work and mindfulness practices and
awesome.
Things like that. So yeah, it's really great.
And I think sort of like based upon what we talked about before recording, which mind you, took a little while to start recording. So for those of you listening, if you hear some feedback, we had some tech dramas, but look, this is just life. And I don't know what else to do. So we're just here rolling with it.
Yeah. I'm just hanging in here. This is what it's like having an online business and not knowing how to use computers and technology.
Which actually, I feel like kind of surprises me a little bit. I feel like you'd be tech savvy. I feel like I'm pretty tech savvy actually, but I do a lot of YouTubing and Googling things, trying to figure it out.
Searching.
One thing that I have felt the last few months starting a podcast and starting my own online business too, is I think what will make or break someone in a digital business is their willingness to learn shit on their own.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And maybe that's just life in general,
Nobody knows. You got to figure it out.
Yeah. You just have to figure it out. Yeah. I've had a lot of people reach out to me about questions like starting podcasts and stuff like that. And I'm always kind of happy to help, but you just got to do your own work sometimes, and just figure it out.
Trial and error.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. So you're doing, you have a wellness business now. And I like that you said that you help people figure out what wellness means to them, but you do a lot with mindset work. And I'm sure, as you know, this is mostly a yoga podcast kind of ish, Do you practice yoga?
I do.
Oh, you do? Awesome.
I do. And I teach buti yoga.
You do?
Are you familiar with that?
Okay, I kind of. I've never really done it. So tell me a little bit about buti yoga.
Yeah. So, I've been practicing yoga. My whole life. I grew up with it. My mom was a yoga instructor. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And I really got big into it. I had a dance teacher in high school who was also my yoga teacher. So I just got really into it. But I'm not certified in yoga. I haven't done the 7 billion hour thing.
It's like 200.
but I love to do it. And I am certified in buti yoga. So it's like very basic, flow, vinyasa flow, but with plyometrics and rhythmic dancing and a lot of hip movements.
Awesome. So kind of like that Shakti stuff. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. I didn't know that about you. Do you teach other types of fitness classes?
I teach everything. I not currently, but I teach cardio dance currently still. I've been certified in Zumba. I've taught cycling. I've taught land, water classes. This morning I taught a sort of circuit style training class. So I just love to teach it all.
That's awesome. I'm actually doing a bar training this Wednesday.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. I'm teaching bar and ballet fitness at UNCW in the fall.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about it because, you know, I mean, you know this, and anyone listening to this podcast, if they listen for a while, they know that I dance. You know, I've been taking ballet my whole life. So I'm pretty excited about it.
Yeah, that's going to be so much fun.
So mindset work, getting back to the whole conversation, the reason I asked you if you were a yogi is because in the yoga practice, mindset work is paramount. You know, the quality of the thoughts reflects the quality of the breath reflects the quality of the mind, and so on. So can you tell me, or not just me, the whole Dharma Drops audience, which I think is all people in 35 countries now.
Yeah.
Can you
worldwide.
Tell us? Worldwide, girl.
Like Pitbull, but Mrs. Worldwide.
Oh my God. Could you? I need to come up with some like slogan for that. I don't know what it is. Okay. So anyway, some mindset work. So can you tell us a little bit about what you do with mindset work?
So basically we have a gajillion thoughts a day. I don't know
I have more than that. I promise.
I don't know the actual statistic, but it's a lot. We're always thinking, and you know, sometimes they're conscious thoughts and sometimes they're more subconscious thoughts. But no matter the thought, they start to create our feelings. Mm-hmm. And your feelings can either help you, help motivate you towards working on your fitness, wellness goals, or they can hold you back and they can be limiting. So I help people, first of all, become aware of what their thoughts are.
Which is the most sort of amazing and critical thing. I've said this so many times in the last years of my life. I'm not sure if I've said it on the podcast before, but the moment that someone told me and that I realized what they meant, that my thoughts are not reality and I am not my thoughts, it was like the most mind-blowing thing I had ever experienced. And it didn't necessarily change the fact that I have thoughts, right? Because we have thoughts, we're humans. If your brain's not thinking, there's probably a problem. You know?
Right.
But suddenly I was like, oh, that just changed everything.
Yeah, they're two separate things.
It's crazy.
Mm-hmm. And your thoughts. And they can really affect how you feel. And so when people say like, oh, I'm just an anxious person, that's just how I am. It's like, no, that's not you. Those are because of the thoughts that you're having. Or, you know, people say I'm just lazy, you know, and they can't do their fitness goals. You know, they can't go and work out because they, you know, have this thought that they're just lazy. So
God, that's been me this week. Sorry.
It's recognizing like, what are you saying to yourself in your mind? What's happening? And then being able to, separate yourself and then start to find ways to adjust those thoughts.
Yeah, that's the tricky part. You know,
it is.
Maybe understanding them, but the thoughts, I mean, really, they just do their own damn thing. You know, like sometimes I'll be reading a book or I don't even know, listening to a podcast, whatever. And then suddenly I come back. I'm like, what was I just thinking about? How did that even arrive? You know, right. How did I even get so distracted with the chatter of the mind? You know, and I wonder I know what my life was like before, you know, my yoga teacher was like, hey, you are not your thoughts, but way easier said than done, you know, to change those thoughts. It's really hard because I guess I was probably on a side note. I just noticed I said and I listened to my last podcast episode. Damn it, I say so much. I can't.
I do too.
I can't stop. And I made it
say it all the time.
So do I. And I made a commitment to myself that I was going to stop saying it. And I think I just said it 50 freaking times.
Don't worry about it.
Well, I hear it when other people are talking. I'm like, I didn't so much. And I didn't know I say it, just like I didn't know my thoughts were, you know, right. It's unconscious. And when I heard my last podcast episode, oh my God, it's crazy.
Was it
It was super crazy. But anyways, I have no idea what I was just talking about before I brought that up. Do you?
Mindset work. And they have a mind of their own, your thoughts.
Oh, yeah. Thanks. I'm so glad you're here to keep me on track today.
It's hard to change them.
It is hard to change them.
Especially if you're not aware of them.
Right. And that's what I was going to say. So for example, I'll be 37 in a few months in September 10th, if everyone wants to send me like boxes of chocolates and stuff.
Okay.
So I must have been probably in my maybe earlier 30s when I really learned that. So if you keep that in perspective, that's 30 years of not knowing about my thoughts, right?
Yeah.
And you don't get to undo that in a single moment or in a single day. It might take another 30 years or another lifetime to undo those thoughts.
Right. Mm-hmm. It took you a long time to develop these thoughts a lot of them are really just beliefs. Like you believe they are true. Mm-hmm. And it took you a long time to come up with that. And so to unlearn it takes a lot of practice. Mm-hmm. So that's where coaching can come in, is like just that stop, check yourself. Practice what you're trying to cultivate instead of those limiting beliefs.
Sure. And even this morning, I took a yoga class with Sarah Bullock, who I always want to call Sandra Bullock. I'm sure she's heard that 1,000 times. But so if you're listening, Sarah, hey, what's up? And she was saying too, in her Dharma talk, that, her daughter will come home and like have these sort of negative thoughts and negative conversations about people at school or whatever. And she says like, okay, I'm glad that you recognize this. Now let's change that with 3 good things about those people. Which, why didn't someone teach me that when I was young, that you can really have these thoughts and you can really have these feelings, and then you get to flip the script at the same time.
Yep. Mm-hmm. You get to flip the script, and sometimes it's really easy. And sometimes it's like, oh, let me just change my perspective. Let me practice a little bit of gratitude and realize that, okay, it is a beautiful day, even though it's raining, we need rain. And, you can flip your mindset and flip your perspective that way. But some of these like core beliefs that people have about themselves and about life that have developed from their past are much harder to change than just flipping your perspective.
For sure.
So that's another part that's really important, is it's not just like saying an affirmation and hoping it comes true. It's understanding why you're having that thought and getting to the root of it, and being able to, go back and kind of like heal where that came from. Yeah,
for sure. My old therapist used to say up and out, you have to like investigate it. You have to dig down deep into it. And then it comes up and out,
Yep.
Interesting. So you do this mindset work in relationship to wellness, which is interesting because often we hear about this, maybe not let me rephrase my question. When you're talking about wellness, do you mean fitness, or do you mean overall wellness, like mindfulness, or the whole 9 yards? So how are you using this mindset work in your business?
So overall wellness is the goal. So just, empowering the people to decide, again, what wellness means to them. And maybe that means working on their physical fitness, or getting better sleep, or reducing their stress, all these different aspects that they think they want to improve. But then it's, see, what was I saying?
I told you it's really easy to lose. So before we started recording, I told Natalie, I said, look, if you mess up, it doesn't matter. Just keep going. But I always forget what I'm talking about. It's so easy to forget what you're talking about.
No. What was your question?
My question was, how do you use this mindset work in your business?
Yes. So, okay, I've worked with a lot. Where am I?
You're in Wisconsin.
Just started thinking about all the different ways that you can take your wellness journey. There's like so many different things to work on. But anyways, I have recognized with a lot of my past clients that, they have a goal. They want to be able to do 10 push-ups, or because I do personal training and I teach group exercise classes.
Which, by the way, your shoulders look really strong.
Oh, thanks. We did a lot of planks this morning.
Mm-hmm.
So I've worked my personal training clients. This is kind of how I got into more of a broad spectrum wellness, more of a holistic wellness, was because my clients were saying, I just can't do it. Like, I just won't show up for myself. I just can't you asked me to come in 3 times this week and it's just not happening. And there's so much more going on. It's not just not happening. It's because of the thoughts that you're having. Same thing with like diet, changing your diet, even just weight loss. People are coming in with the wrong reasons. Like, I hate my body, and so I need to punish it and change it, you know?
That one, I experience that one a lot. And I also hear that one a lot. That one's a really tough one for me, especially having been born in the 80s and watching my mom do things like aerobics and stuff like that, which, I mean, not that there's anything wrong with aerobics, but the culture surrounding that at the time was about being really thin and fit, you know, buns of steel, thigh master style, that sort of stuff. And so I grew up with that. And like also the zero fat food products came out at the time, because there was so much fear about like having a big body or not being really in shape. And so I often feel like I'm combating those thoughts. I'll eat. So for example, my sweet boyfriend, who I love dearly, he went to the grocery store and he saw that you could get 2 cartons of ice cream and get 3 free. Mm-hmm. Of course, we have 5 fucking cartons of ice cream in our freezer right now. And so, of course, what am I going to do? I'm going to eat it all because it's delicious. And every time I eat it, then I'm like, why did you do that? You have to do extra chaturangas in your yoga practice or stuff like that. So even now, even though I feel pretty confident in my own wellness journey, I still have to combat that like on the reg.
Yep. And these thoughts come up all the time, and it's constant practice, and it's learning the tools to be able to affirm the thoughts that you want to focus on and the beliefs that you want to cultivate. Practice. So
Interesting. So what do you find are what do you hear the most about thoughts that maybe distract your clients from really living their best lives or being on their wellness journey?
Well, I think the first thing that stands out that I've worked with a couple of people on is not even being aware of their thoughts. Mm-hmm. I've worked with people who are more aware, but I have worked with several people who, you know, I've asked, well, what's going on in your head when you do that? And they say, I don't know.
Yeah. Yep.
And I'm just like, wow, you know, that's a big room for improvement right there. That's a lot of room for improvement. Yeah,
because the brain's not going to stop thinking. The interesting thing is it's really protecting you. You know what I mean? It tells you these stories. Well, I shouldn't say your brain, but my brain tells me these stories of like fear and doubt and all this stuff. So it tells you these stories to keep you safe, so that way you don't fall off the cliff. So that way you don't burn your hand on the hot stove, you know, these sorts of things, which is not how sweet of it, how very, very kind, you know, of the brain to do that.
Yeah, thank you, but no thank you.
Mm-hmm. But also differentiating between thoughts that are useful and not useful, because like you don't want to fall off the cliff, you know. I went to Grandfather Mountain with Aaron, and I was like walking up at the top and going out like onto this cliff, and of course you hit this part where it's no longer safe to go out there, you know. So we don't want to say like, oh, that's just a thought, like. You know, like sometimes things are dangerous. So being able to differentiate between when is this real and when is it not.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right. So that's once you have the awareness, is this actually serving me? Is this thought actually serving me? Yes or no? And if it is, great, cool. If it's not, you know, how is it not serving you? And how can you release that and transform it into something that's going to be more productive for you?
Mm-hmm. So what are the ways that you can start transforming your thoughts? So awareness is key, of course. Mm-hmm. It's not enough. So what's the next step?
The next step is understanding. Understanding why. Once you have the awareness, why are you having that thought? And I think if you're just on your own working on this, something you can ask yourself is why, and just keep going down the line. So I'm having this thought. Why am I having it? Why? And just keep coming up with answers. And if you can't come up with the answer, you know, if your answer is, I don't know why, it just is. My question to you is, can you think, well, what if you did know the answer? Mm-hmm. Because it just poses that, trust yourself, come up with the next answer, and you'll start to understand your where your thoughts are coming from. And is it from a fear base? Is it because this has happened, something negative has happened before, similar to what you're presented with now? And, it maybe in the past, this situation has been scary or something failed, and so you're afraid to do it again. But just kind of like recognizing where that came from, and is it still serving you now?
It's interesting because for me, sometimes the awareness of my thoughts and where they come from arrive when I'm exercising. I don't know if that happens to you, especially yoga, but it could be other things too. And like, if you, I said, if you look at,
I probably just said it 30 times. So.
It's fine. Everyone's keeping tabs now that I brought it up. Probably no one noticed until I mentioned it. But if you look at,
I don't even hear anything we're saying. They just hear like.
Yeah. like. If you look at the ancient teachings in yoga, I mean, that's part of the point, right? It's to get the body aligned so the energy can flow, right? And so it moves out. Maybe they call it karma. Last episode, we were talking about these like knots called granthis. It lets the energy move through the body so we can get clear, and we're able then to move for yogis who practice this way into a spiritual practice. So I always believe that these ancient Eastern practices, I mean, they've stood the test of time and they were onto something for sure. So it's not surprising to me that in my experience, and I think like many other people, that the awareness of thoughts and where they come from and how it's holding me back arrive in my yoga practice.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's cool that you notice that through movement. Mm-hmm. For me, it's just really sitting with myself, just meditating. Mm-hmm. And it just gives me a lot of clarity on, why I'm feeling a certain way.
Sure. For some people, I bet journaling is helpful too. I'm not much of a journaler. I get I said it again, damn it. I'm really a Debbie Downer when it comes to journaling. Every time I journal, it's like turns into this like, woe is me conversation, with myself. Yeah. I don't know why it gets that way. So I actually don't do a whole lot of journaling, but I'm sure for other people that might, because I do know I teach writing, and I know for a fact that writing can help pull these things out sometimes. But for me, it's just like,
definitely. And that why, you can go through that in your journal too. Mm-hmm. So I'm scared to do this. Why? Mm-hmm. I'm afraid I'll fail. Why?
Yeah, right.
What does that mean if you fail? Well, and you'll get to eventually your core beliefs that are causing all of these thoughts, and you can start to shift those core beliefs through things like yoga and movement and different sort of forms of release. There's so many different ways that people use to like release old thoughts and old beliefs. So. Mm-hmm.
Not yesterday. It was a few days ago. I was recording a few meditations for an online course that I am teaching right now. And, damn, I lost my train of thought again. Oh my God, Natalie, what is wrong
meditation?
What did you just say?
Releasing
old
beliefs.
It's gone, Natalie.
Oh, I was enjoying that song. Releasing old beliefs. Yeah. Mantra.
Oh my God, we should chant that whole releasing old beliefs. So now we've come up with the mantra for everyone to sing, releasing old beliefs.
Yeah, that works too. Yeah, you can do mantras. There are different meditations. I've just learned about EFT, emotional freedom technique, tapping.
What's that?
It's called emotional freedom technique, also known as tapping. So it is sort of activating the different meridian points on your body, similar to what acupuncture does.
Look, I ran into someone one time at the food co-op, which is like the most stereotypical thing for a yoga teacher to say. I ran into my friend at the food co-op and I was getting a green juice, and it's got to get even way more stereotypical. This is terrible. And I said, hey, do you think I should get my nose pierced today? It was so stupid. She was like, stand really tall and tap your thymus.
Yes.
And I did. And she was like, And then she was like, if you lean this way, it means yes. And if you lean this way, it means no. And I felt I wanted to get my nose pierced. I was just feeling really scared about it. So I just like leaned in the yes direction. So I don't think that's exactly how it's supposed to work.
That is so funny that like you were at the co-op and you ran into somebody who was like, just do thymus tapping.
I did, right in front of the fucking juice bar. I was like, tap, tap, tap.
Yeah.
That's so good. So is that emotional freedom? What'd you call it? Emotional freedom technique?
Yeah. Yeah, it is. But then there's also other points, top of your head, your, what is this called? Temples, your under your eye.
Oh, that feels good. Under your eye.
Under your arm. Yeah. And there's sort of this pattern that when you tap on it in this like circular motion, it can help rewire your
Interesting.
beliefs. Yeah.
That's
so
interesting.
it's something to look into.
Well, the meridian thing, I know this is a little off topic, but the meridian thing is really interesting. I recently have been having some trouble with my hip because apparently I'm 600 years old. And so I went to a new acupuncturist, and I really like acupuncture. But she was like talking about all these different meridian lines and stuff like that. And it was really interesting because really it parallels Ayurveda, which is the sister science to yoga. But she did all this work on I don't know enough about it, but on the meridian line that's associated with the spleen, because most of my ailments, like my stuffy nose, my hip pain, that sort of stuff are all related to the spleen. And I'll tell you what, she worked with that meridian line and my hip does not hurt. It
Wow.
felt better within 24 hours. And now I have, before that acupuncture session, I could barely lift my leg up. It hurt so bad. And now it's fine.
Wow.
Wild. So
Yeah.
I don't know enough about it, but I'm a believer.
Yeah. I don't know enough about it either, but that's pretty awesome that you have that experience. Yeah.
And I think it's sort of a testament to of just sort of trusting in the things that we don't know anything about, right? We don't actually know much about our thoughts. They just kind of do their own thing. The brain just does its thing, and not really we have to trust those thoughts, but we have to trust in the process.
Yep.
Letting them go. We don't know what's going to come on the other side of that, right?
Yep.
But
Yep.
it's not serving us right now. So let's just trust in moving forward.
Yep. Exactly. Just trust yourself. Yeah. It's like having an online business where you just trust that you'll figure it out.
God, I don't know if I trust that yet. I'm working on it. It's a brave new world out there on the internet.
Yeah, there's so many things happening.
So we first have to acknowledge that we have thoughts, and then we start to look at why. And so then is the next step to replace the thoughts?
Yeah, I think so. Usually when you understand them, when you understand where the thoughts are coming from, and you kind of can, whether that's through like inner child healing or whatever, you can go back and kind of heal the place or the trauma where those thoughts came from, the thoughts that are holding you back. Sometimes that just releases them. You realize, okay, this is no longer rational. This is no longer serving me. And it's just,
I've never had an irrational thought before. Just kidding. Oh my God.
Either. Like me neither. So sometimes that just like gets rid of it. You're like, yes, I'm free of it. But then other times it takes a little extra push to get rid of that, limiting belief, those old thoughts. And so that's where, like the tapping comes in, or like saging. I like to sage myself a lot. I know.
Oh, I sage myself too, because sometimes the most negative thing in a room is me.
Exactly. So I'm like, okay, I'm just resetting this, clearing out all this negative energy. And, sometimes, people like to, I used to know somebody who would write down all the bad things that happened to them from the year, and at the end of the year, and they'd write them down and put them in their Christmas tree and then burn the Christmas tree on New Year.
Yeah, like a fire puja. So in the past, I've done the 108 sun salutations for the new year, and you write down the things that you want to let go of and then burn them, which I get paranoid that I'm going to start a fire, but that's symbolic. I know, of like letting it burn, letting it wash away is really helpful. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Some people like to run it out, to go for a run. So, it's whatever works for you. And like everybody's different. So whatever helps you. Sometimes just having a little dance break or doing a little Taylor Swift Shake It Off.
I wish everyone could see her right now because we're recording on video too. And she's doing this whole
I'm doing my neck isolations.
I'm totally posting that to promote this episode. It's awesome. So sorry, we're like laughing, having a great time, and everyone listening is like, I wonder what they're doing. What helps me often is when I start to recognize that my thoughts are starting to spiral out of control, I take a big breath in and a big breath out. Mm-hmm. And that is what I was going to talk about a moment ago when I was recording the meditations, is that it's not necessarily about changing the thoughts, but recognizing that those thoughts aren't true in the present moment. That's what I was going to say. Oh my gosh, we're back.
Yes.
Right? So you can have all these thoughts of fear and all these thoughts of worry and I don't know, I can't say it, thoughts of the past and so on. But if you really tune into the present moment, none of that's actually happening, right? Like the only thing happening right now, I could be as worried as I can be about something later on the day, but the only thing happening right now is I'm sitting in front of my computer recording a podcast, having a good time.
Yeah, exactly.
Or sometimes all that's happening is it's raining outside, you know what I mean? Or whatever. Yep. It doesn't have to, the thoughts don't have to control your whole life because it's not the reality of your life.
Right, right. And you don't have to let them be true. You decide, is this true for me right now or not? Can I let it go? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, if it were just that easy.
I know.
I know.
It takes lots of practice.
It does take lots of practice.
And then you never get it. You never reach the finish line.
Right. And that's something else that I was just thinking of is sometimes I'll feel like I've eradicated some like craziness that's going on in my brain and then it'll creep back up like a year later. I'm like, oh, damn it. You're back.
Yeah.
And now I feel like
you've already like been there before and you're like, okay.
It's easier each time.
You what?
It's easier each time.
It's easier. Right. Cause then you can go like, okay, all right. I've noticed this before. This is what I did. I can figure this out.
For sure. Also too, I always come back to my yoga practice because it's just true. But my yoga practice, not only does it help me identify thoughts, it kind of teaches me that my thoughts are wrong. Because I'll have a lot of thoughts, especially in tricky things like arm balances and inversions and stuff like that. And I'll feel like, oh, I can't do these things. I'm too scared. And then one day with practice, I just can, and it's just a reminder that we can think lots of things about ourselves and we can think lots of things about our bodies. But if we keep putting in the effort, we will arrive at the next stop along the way, Yep.
And then that's kind of the next step after you've kind of released those limiting beliefs or things that are holding you back. Like I can't do an arm balance.
I
can't. Whatever it is, once you can release that, then you can put something new in your head. Like with practice, it's possible. And that's way less limiting.
Practice and all is coming, right? That's a famous yoga quote, practice and all is coming. If you practice, it is possible. And one thing that's always really interesting to me is if you practice anything, even without guidance, you will get better at it. It's really weird. Like you just start to like understand it.
Yeah.
I was taking these kickboxing classes for a while. They were really fun at a place called 9 Round that everybody should go to. It's really fun.
Oh yeah.
And they're really helpful at 9 Round, but sometimes it's busy and they can't get to you every single time. But I always thought it was interesting because even when no one was teaching me anything, over the course of a few weeks and then a few months, I started to figure things out all by myself. I was like, oh, so that's how you do this, or that's how I get more power in this kick or whatever, and so I'm sure the same is true for the mindset exercise. If you just keep doing it, you don't even need someone to tell you how to do it. Just keep doing it and exploring ways.
Keep being mindful and practicing and trying different things. And you'll realize, okay, that didn't really do anything for me. So let me try something else. And you'll learn from doing the wrong things as well as doing the right things.
It's almost more important to know what not to do than what to
Exactly.
do. Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
I've always said about writing too, it's almost important to explain what something isn't than what it is, because you eliminate everything and you get a little more clear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Keep heading in the right direction. You'll eventually find the path.
That's right. I said yesterday on Facebook, where does the path go? Doesn't matter. Just follow it.
Yeah.
Just follow it. Okay. So you also wrote an article for the Dharma Drops website, which is super cool. And I couldn't stop laughing at your Instagram story when you're like, it's really intimidating writing for my former English professor.
Well, yeah. And then I got all those guidelines and I was like, oh gosh, it's got to be perfect.
So perfect. I'm the fucking queen of typos. It's crazy. And so this article, if you guys who are listening want to read it, it is about mindset work, but I know I'm asking you this just off the top, but can you elaborate too a little bit on that article?
So yeah, the article goes through kind of my 5 steps to resetting your mindset. So I actually have an online program called Mindset Reset.
Oh, cool.
It's a self-led program where you can guide yourself through this process of gaining the awareness of your thoughts, understanding where they come from, being able to let them go, deciding what you want to cultivate, and then practicing that. So that's really what the article goes through is a little bit more in depth about each of those different steps. Cool. And we've talked a lot about that on this podcast. So
yeah, awesome. And I like too that it's self-guided. And now I haven't taken the course, but as you were talking, I was thinking about how helpful this work is for anything. I know you're talking about wellness in your own business. And maybe for some people, they're associating that with fitness. But I was thinking, how cool would it be to take a course or to just listen to this podcast and gain some skills to be able to change your mindset for things like work or your relationship, because those are all major contributors to overall wellness. If you are miserable at your job and your mindset at work is shitty all day, not because you're doing anything wrong, just because that's just sometimes how it goes. I've been there, I understand. When you come home, you don't feel like going for a goddamn run, right? The day's been terrible. You want to eat those 5 gallons of ice cream in the freezer right now.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And everything is connected. And that was one of the first things that I started recognizing when I was doing personal training years ago, was that, okay, these people are being held back because of things outside of their workout. They're being held back by they're overworking. They're working way past, 5, 6 o'clock. Or they have kids and, there's something going on where they feel bad to, leave them with someone else, or so there's so many other things that are connected to. I mean, your wellness is just one big conglomerate thing of all the different parts of you. So you really can't attack just your fitness without attacking everything else.
Right.
And ultimately what comes, your actions come from the beliefs that you have about yourself and about the world.
The time in my life when I was the most fit, and by that, I mean like the thinnest, the strongest, I could run for pretty much as long as I wanted to within reason. Like I used to run from UNCW to Wrightsville Beach, that's probably like my max, I wasn't like a marathon runner or anything. That was when I was the most fit of my entire life and the most unwell.
Yeah.
Because fitness and wellness, they have nothing to do with each other, and so I might not be quite as fit now, but I've also never been as well in my life. I'm not unfit, but I've never been as well in my life before because I was running, doing all these things to ignore the work that really needed to be done. And I was running because I felt like I had to, because I ate too much that day, or because I would look better in an outfit, or whatever, just superficial reasons. And so once I started doing all this other work, really it was the spiritual path through yoga, which you knew me pre-yoga. So sorry, Natalie, let me just a blanket apology.
You're a wonderful Mrs. Warfield. So
well, thank you.
You've just gotten even better.
Oh my gosh, thanks. But once I moved through that spiritual path, I didn't really feel the need to be so fit all the time. Not that I don't want to be, but overall, things are just better.
Yep. Yeah. Your beliefs about yourself and about the world shift. and shift for the better.
And ironically, I bet you my body's better too, because I was running till injury, right? I was running until exhaustion, and I was doing things. I was exercising way too much for what my body needed to do. Of course, I ended up with a serious back injury that put me out for a long time,
Yep. Working out every single day is not the right way to do it for everyone. Eating a salad every day for lunch is not, best. There's no right way to do it. It's what
I had pad thai for breakfast.
Ooh, yummy. I love pad thai.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you. What were you saying?
No, it's fine. I love pad thai. But it's different for everyone, and what feels good is going to be different for everybody.
Yeah, so for sure.
Figuring out what works, and not limiting yourself to just workouts or just diet. Considering all aspects of yourself.
Sure. This is making me think too, because we're talking about personal mindset, but what I haven't really considered in our conversation yet is this collective cultural mindset too, right? That to change your own personal mindset often, I think, in my experiences at least, means I have to reject the greater norms. That because you hear things like, oh, you should work out every day, tough it out, eat a salad every day. One of my favorite quotes from Arnold Schwarzenegger, which it's not really a great quote, but it's funny. They're like, oh, if I get 8 hours of sleep, I don't have enough time to work out. And he says, sleep faster, but which is ridiculous, but it's kind of funny. But there's this thing like, oh, well, I have to reduce how much I sleep so that makes sure I can fit everything else into my day that it needs to get done and stuff like that. To change your own personal mindset means you're going to have to, for me, go against the grain.
Yep.
And some people might think you're doing things wrong and there's a better way of doing it, but it's your own thing.
Yep. And trusting yourself to know, trusting that you know what's best for you.
Mm-hmm. Because you do. Everyone does.
You do. You know what's best for you. You know what feels right and you know what doesn't feel right.
That's always a struggle for me too. It depends on what I'm doing. For some reason, running really gets me into a wild thought process. I've started, it's not running. It's not even jogging. It's more like,
I call it wogging.
That's what I call it too. Oh my God. Thank you. I call it wogging too. I was thinking don't really want to say this out loud, but you said it for me.
Yeah. That's what I do. I hate running.
Yeah. So I went wogging last night, but I've been having some Achilles tendon pain. And I've had this whole internal dialogue with myself. Do you keep running? Wogging? Do you not? What do you do? And if I wanted to keep going, but then I also know that that's not the right decision for my body. So my brain was telling me just push a little harder, but then my clarity, whatever you want to call it, it's like, well, I don't know, that's the best decision. So I did end up walking the rest of the way.
Yeah. And that's fine. And then you can ask yourself why for each of those decisions. I should keep going. Why?
Right. Because I'm trying to get back in shape, which is ridiculous, right? Well, so we're going right back to the beginning.
Yeah, because I want to challenge myself, because I want to push myself, because I want to see how far I can go. Cool, those are pretty good reasons. But if it's, I need to keep going because I ate pad thai for breakfast, then chill out, take a walk.
I ate pad thai after I went running last night for dinner. And it was good.
Nothing wrong with eating pad thai for breakfast, though.
There's nothing wrong with eating pad thai ever. It's delicious.
I know.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't eat gluten, so rice noodles are the ultimate comfort.
I can't live without gluten. I don't have a gluten intolerance that I know of. I don't feel bad if I eat gluten or anything. Maybe if I stopped and I would realize I feel better. I don't know, but I'm fine. I just can't live without it, man. It's just so good. So Natalie, is there anything else that you want to share with us?
Oh my goodness, there are so many things that I want to share with everyone. Closing thoughts. Don't be afraid to get to know yourself. Don't be afraid to sit with yourself and notice what's going on. And ultimately, I think the biggest thing is knowing that you are worth taking the time to figure this stuff out. Mm-hmm. You are worth setting aside the time for yourself. And you are worth making these changes, because I think a lot of times people put so many other things above themselves. They put their job, their kids, their family, everything above themselves. And that's a major limiting belief, is that you don't deserve to feel good. And so to recognize, like, are you one of those people who feels that way? And to, try and start to make that shift and realize that you do deserve to feel good, and you do deserve to take this journey with yourself and have everything you ever wanted.
Yeah, for sure. And when we feel good, everything else we're doing is better.
Yeah. Yep. Take care of yourself, and you can show up so much better for other people. When you take care of yourself, we all know you present the best version of yourself. And that's what the world needs, is the best version of you.
Right.
Because we all have our own gifts and things that we need to offer the world. And if we're not taking care of ourselves, we cannot offer those gifts.
Yeah, for sure. So while you were talking, I was thinking, because you said, don't be afraid to sit, with yourself and figure this stuff out. And this is sort of going back to the conversation earlier when I was mentioning meditation, but I feel like I really want to mention this, is I think a lot of people think that meditation, the goal is to empty the mind. Best of luck to you if that's the goal, right? Because that's not going, if you figure that out, you have moved beyond the realm of this universe, right? So really, sure, you can train the mind to be quiet-ish, right? But really, I can only speak from my experiences, but really in meditation, what we do is we recognize the patterns of the mind. We start to recognize, oh shoot, every 2 seconds, this feeling of anger pops up, or every 2 seconds, I'm thinking about the next thing on my plate, or then every 2 seconds, I'm upset about something from the past. And it teaches us the patterns of the mind. And so I do think, I actually don't sit down and meditate very often. That's not my meditation practice. I really am a moving meditator through my yoga practice. It speaks to me. It is the most quiet I can get with myself. And it's when I arrive at the most clarity about my thoughts. But I think for a lot of people to sit down and just recognize, like, oh, every freaking time I think this, that teaches you a lot.
Yes. And then why?
Right. Yes. So I just wanted to say that, because I feel like if we ended recording, I didn't say that, I'd be like, oh, damn, that was a really important thing and I forgot to mention it.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah. Meditation is not just time for silence. It's time to...
Or relaxation.
Or relaxation. It's time to tune in.
Right. I love how she's tapping her forehead.
turn inward and see what's going on internally, as opposed to always focusing on the external world.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's where you learn about yourself, and that's where you grow.
The other thing too, because you were saying the world needs the best part of you. I'm listening to Oprah's book right now, The Path Made Clear. And she talks a lot about this, is that you have this gift, but if you're not living as the best version of yourself, it cannot be given. Yeah. Right? It gets stuck and gets buried underneath all the bullshit of our lives, So this work helps you realize what that gift is, and then you can offer it to the rest of the world. And everybody has something. Everybody, I've talked to some people that just go, I don't know what my purpose is. I just, everybody has something. Maybe it's to, rear amazing children. Maybe it's, to put out amazing podcasts. Maybe, it's to create art that inspires conversation. Everybody has something. So, right. And like, your gifts don't have to change the whole world. It's awesome if they do. Like Oprah, like she's changing the whole world, but imagine if each of us were able to offer something to just one person.
Right.
And then that one person can offer something to the next. I mean, that would be a pretty amazing world.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure. But this work is definitely critical to being able to arrive at that place.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Cool, Natalie. So I like to end the podcast with a separate conversation about random things that have nothing to do with anything, because I really do believe that all of this mindset work is important, and yoga is important, and everything we talk about in the podcast is important, but there's a big wide world out there of interesting things that we can't forget about. So are there any things, right? Or is there anything, I can't talk. Are there any things right now that we need to check out? Like your favorite TV show, your favorite book, your favorite movie. What are the things you're doing these days?
Okay, this just popped up because you said TV show. There is a show called Lucifer.
I've heard of Lucifer. I haven't watched it, but it's good.
The hackiest show ever, but there's 4 seasons, and I don't know what network it started off on, but it got canceled, and then Netflix picked it up for a 4th season, and I am obsessed. I like binged all of them. I couldn't stop. Told all my friends about it. I have, it's a very small niche of people that like it. I mean, not that small, but so I only have a couple friends that I can talk to about it. But
now you have 35 people, or not 35 people. Well, there's maybe 1 person per country downloading or something. I was going to say 35 countries of people, but
so if you have watched Lucifer or you start watching Lucifer and you like it, let me know because we can just fan about it. Because it's just. There's this slow burning romance, and that's what I'm all about. Is like the show is terrible. It's so hacky and cheesy, but it's that slow burn that I'm like, when are they gonna get together?
So there's a show that I really like. It's sort of the same thing. It's like really ridiculous. It's called Cable Girls. It's on Netflix, and it's a Spanish show, and so it has English voiceover, which makes it even better. And it's like really hacky because it's like the type of thing where they're like, "What will we do?" And everyone turns their heads. It's so good. But there's these multiple slow burning romances and fights and all sorts of stuff. And I'm like, I just need to know who she's going to marry.
Exactly. Can't stop watching because I need to know. Yeah, so Lucifer has a season 5 coming out, and all the fans are just like, hello.
Do you listen to podcasts?
I do.
Oh, okay. What are you listening to?
Well, Dharma Drops is a really good one.
You're right about that.
I also like, oh gosh, I can't think of the name right now, but hang on, I will get it. It's called Healing Uncensored.
Ooh, what's that about?
So it's about everything, everything wellness, but specifically spiritual healing and, emotional wellness. She also talks a lot about autoimmune disease. So if there's anybody dealing with chronic illness, she helps teach you how to manage that with your mind, but also different alternative treatments and things that you can learn about. So
cool.
She's just very loving and supportive person. And so I enjoy that. It's called Healing Uncensored. I
think everyone knows that I listen to a podcast called My Favorite Murder. Have you listened to it?
Oh, yes. No, I have not, but I have a friend. I have a friend who's like you, and she likes her murder stories.
I love murder stories. So, of course, I listened to My Favorite Murder, but they recently came out with a book. I listened to the audiobook, and I have to say, even if you are not a true crime fan, I think everybody should listen or read the book. So it's really, I think it's been listed now under a self-help book. It's so fucking good. There's a section where Karen Kilgariff, who is one of the co-hosts, she has a whole chapter on self-care. It's so good. And it's not like drink lemon water, which that stuff's great too. But it's like, I get on a tangent about self-care because everyone's like, self-care, I'm going to nap and watch Netflix. I'm going to watch Forensic Files so long that it asked me 3 times. That's not self-care. Right? That's called being lazy as shit because you're not feeling well. know? But that's not self-care. It can be maybe sometimes.
It can be, yeah.
Yes, it can be. But in any case, her section on self-care is so good. And they have so much good information, especially for women, because they're always talking about murder, right? In which unfortunately women tend to be the victims of these crimes. And so they're talking about their own experiences of when they were in precarious situations, but why I don't want to say why they allowed themselves to do that because that's not what I'm trying to say. But so they have this whole thing about, they say fuck politeness, right? And so they talk a lot about how their own politeness, sometimes they were too afraid to say no to things, you know, and it's just so good because it's a reminder that like, you don't have to be polite. You can always stand up for yourself.
Yeah.
It's so good. So it doesn't matter if you're not a murderino, if you don't listen to My Favorite Murder, everyone should listen to it. I was crying the whole time I listened to it. I was like, how am I crying listening to this book?
Oh, and what's it called again?
It's called Stay Sexy, Don't Get Murdered.
Love that.
That's their sign off all the time. And then there's another section, I'm telling everyone about the entire book, where Karen talks about the death of her mother. I was sobbing. It's just really sad and really beautiful too. So everyone should listen. I think you should listen to the book because they're podcasters. So they're really good when they read it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are there any books that you're reading?
I try not to read too much. I always start. I need to be better about this, but I get books and then I read the first chapter and I go, ooh. But then I get excited about another book and I start to read that. And then I get excited about the next book. And then I'm like, okay, well now I have 6 books that I need to read.
I actually just this morning, I told Aaron, I don't exactly know what happened, but I read less now than I've ever read before in my life. I think it's because reading used to give me a lot of intellectual stimulation because things like TV weren't very good. But now TV is amazing.
So good.
It's so good. And it offers the same complexities and the same opportunities for analysis that literature gave me in a lot of ways, you know? So it's not that I'll never read again or something, but I don't know. My brain just like is really interested in sort of unpacking television right now. It's good.
You know what I'm super excited for is the next season of Queer Eye.
I have not watched that yet, but I watched the original Queer Eye like 600 years ago when it first came out and loved it.
You need to watch. You haven't watched any of them?
No. Uh-oh. She's giving me the look. She just covered her face. Gosh.
You guys go leave her a review and tell her she needs to watch Queer Eye.
But make sure it's 5 stars, please. It's 5 stars, but say like, loser, watch Queer Eye. I'm sure I would. I liked the original, so I'm sure I'd like the new one too.
Oh my gosh, it's so good. And yeah, talk about, I mean, it's not makeovers. It's not like the last one.
Oh, it's not? I don't know anything.
No. It is makeovers, obviously, but it's so much more than makeovers.
Yes, right. And that's the thing about television right now is that it's very layered with complexity. Yeah. And I really like that.
There's a lot of social context and a lot of different voices. People are using this platform to speak their mind. So
for sure.
It's cool.
Awesome. Natalie, if people want to take your course, if they want to learn more about you, if they want to watch Lucifer with you,
yes,
I feel like you should do a Facebook Live Lucifer watch party. Right? Yes. I'll be there. I'll come. But anyway,
I'm into that.
If people want to catch up with you, how can they find you?
You can find me on, my website is nataliegriffie.com. You can find me
IFFIE, right?
Yes. nataliegriffie.com. My Instagram is Natalie Griffie. I also have a community on Facebook where we talk about wellness things like getting better sleep and, stretching and things like that. But we also talk about believing in yourself and kind of empowering yourself to take the action that you need to take. So that community is called the Well and Worthy Collective.
That's a good name.
Yeah, well and worthy. You are so worthy of feeling good.
And I like collective.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. I just like that. It means more than a group, right? To be a collective is like a whole different thing than a group.
Yeah, we're like cool. On a mission.
We're like a collective.
Yeah. So it's really cool. And then is there any other way you can find me? I mean, there are other ways, but that's good for now. I'm Natalie Griffie Wellness on Facebook. Otherwise, nataliegriffie.com and Natalie Griffie on Instagram. I really like my name, so.
Yeah, I mean, you might as well use it, right? But Natalie, thank you so much for being here. I really
Oh my gosh. Thank you for having me. It's been a treat, and it's been wonderful to be able to share this with more people. So
yeah, for sure. And how sweet it is to reconnect, because I've known you a long time now, and to witness all these different stages of your life has been kind of cool.
Yeah, and yours too.
Oh my gosh, thanks. I feel like everything's changing so fast.
Yeah.
It's always fun for me, though, to see former students, their lives take off and what they choose to do. I don't know. It's just fun to see what happens. I had 2 students a long time ago. They met in my class and they got married. It was very interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was cool.
You were you brought them together.
If it works out, I'm sure it will. I'm sure they're very happy, but like, what if it's a disaster? I'm like, oops. My bad.
You're still dancing, right?
I am still dancing. We're getting ready to start Dance-a-Loris, which this won't mean anything to anyone listening, but we are doing a piece that Natalie and I were in together. It's very amazing, where we have all this white stretchy fabric and wrap ourselves up and change shapes, and someone projects film on us.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah. So,
that's so exciting.
Yeah, so we are reworking that piece. I'm really excited about it.
Very cool. Yeah, I remember that fondly. And I kind of left dance for a little bit, but I've decided I have to get back into it. So I'm actually starting teaching in the fall.
Oh, cool. What are you teaching?
So I will be teaching everything, but lots of different ages. So
that's cool.
2 to 18.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So super excited to get back into that environment again.
That'll be fun.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, guys, if you want to catch up with Natalie, make sure to head on over to her Instagram, her Facebook, and her website. And as always, you can find me on Instagram at Rebecca Warfield Yoga and at Dharma Drops Podcast. And you can also catch up with my shenanigans at RebeccaWarfield.com. I just did this fancy thing where now you can also go to DharmaDropsPodcast.com, and it takes you right to my other site. Because that whole Googling, figuring things out thing, working on that. So you can go to RebeccaWarfield.com or DharmaDropsPodcast.com, and you can find me there. So until we meet again next time, Natalie, thanks for being here. Listener friends, bye.
Bye.
Hey, thanks for listening to this episode of Dharma Drops Podcast. Don't forget to head over to Facebook and join the Dharma Drops Community Page, where we can hang out, share ideas, have fun, and just shoot the shit together. So head over to Facebook, search for Dharma Drops Community Page, and bada bing, bada boom, you're there. On Instagram, you can find me at Rebecca Warfield Yoga and at Dharma Drops Podcast. And of course, you can always head over to my website, RebeccaWarfield.com and DharmaDropsPodcast.com, and check out all my shenanigans there, including you can register for the Feeding the Wildlife 2-week course on my site. Okay, until we meet again next time. Bye.